Many of you, alongside of certainly me, were watching last night as unfortunately we had what felt like an echo of the summer of 2020 emerging in Los Angeles. We had police cruisers on fire. We had rocks and other projectiles being hurled at police officers. We had 5 different Waymo vehicles. You may remember I came on talking about how much I loved riding in these autonomous vehicles, Waymos, that have taken over much of the travel in San Francisco and LA. Phoenix, I think a lot of you out there would be riding in them as well. They're spreading across the country very quickly. I had my oldest son with me in San Francisco. He was super excited to ride in one. I loved it. They were on fire in Los Angeles, and the cars were being graffitied. People were waving the flags of Mexico and other countries as they rioted against ICE. And here's what I think is going on. I think if you went back, and maybe we'll talk about this with President Trump Thursday in the Oval Office, I think one of the things that Trump would say that he learned in his first term in office was when violent protests begin, you have to nip them in the bud immediately. You cannot allow them to grow and spread and then fester across the entire nation. And if you remember in the summer of 2020, Tim Walz was the governor of Minnesota responding to George Floyd. There is 100%, should be 100% openness for protest in the United States. We should not ever allow violent protest. And if you violently protest, whether you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, whether you're a citizen or a non-citizen, you should be arrested and prosecuted, I think, to the full extent of the law. And we've been pretty consistent about that. Now, that doesn't mean that you, as we saw on January 6th, should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law, and everybody else who was involved in the BLM protest when they were trying to basically knock the fences down at the White House, if you remember that well, when they were attacking police like crazy, you should have no charges brought based on the politics there, and every charge brought based on the politics of January 6th. But if you are going to charge everyone, regardless of political backgrounds, to the utmost ability for violence, I'm in favor of it. I've been in favor of it my entire life, while also being 100% a First Amendment guy. I'm banned from CNN, for as many of you remember, for saying the only 2 things that have never let me down are the First Amendment and boobs in a 8-year-old viral clip that continues to be one of the most popular clips. Every few months it's circulating again, and every new generation is becoming aware of it in a positive way, by the way. They like it even more, the younger kids do, and I think that's because younger men in particular are over the BS. So I think what Trump learned from the first administration is you have to stop these protests and not allow them to spiral and grow, particularly because this is not a real protest. It's astroturfed. They bring in professional protesters who want to riot, who want to, frankly, take away from whatever honest, peaceful protest is trying to be made, and they turn many parts of American cities into violent cesspools. They burn down buildings, they attack cars, they attack police, and so this is what we started to see happen in Los Angeles last night. And before I start playing some of the clips from what happened last night, one bit of positivity. I have not heard it talked about very much, but murder rates in this country are collapsing all over the country because Trump has committed to giving police the ability to execute from a law and order perspective. And I'm not hearing a lot of people talk about it. And yes, murder rates do go up in the summer. Frankly, I think it's because kids are out of school, people have more time. But all over the country, we are seeing 2025 crime collapse. In fact, we could have potentially the lowest murder rate in the U.S. ever recorded based on how much murder rates are collapsing in this country. Again, Trump took office. Law and order has been on the upswing, and we are seeing massive declines in murder rates all over the country. And it's not getting a lot of attention, but let me just hit you with this. Through May of 2025, from last year, just from last year, murder rates in New York City down 27%. In murder rates in Chicago, down 24%. Murder rates in St. Louis, down 35%. Denver, 63% decline. Baltimore, 32% decline. Cleveland, 37% decline. New Orleans, 31% decline. It doesn't matter what the blue city is. A little bit of red state law and order being applied makes everybody safer. It's not getting a lot of attention, but this is an incredible success story. And so what Trump and his team saw is they said, we're not going to allow the chaos that happened in 2020 to take over the country again. And sadly, the people who ended up losing the most were the people who had to deal with the rates of violence, overwhelmingly black and brown in this country, as the BLM protest led to a decline in law and order. So Trump says, hey, I'm going to bring in the National Guard. We're going to provide even more protection than we did in 2020. We're not going to allow history to repeat itself. Now, this is LA's police chief, Jim McDonnell. This is cut 6 last night, saying it's out of control what we are seeing, the violence. This is cut 6.
The National Guard was federalized, so they're working for the U.S. Army, not for the California State National Guard.
Do we need them?
Do we need them? Well, looking at it tonight, this thing has gotten out of control. Before I could answer that, I'd have to know more about what their capabilities are, what their role is intended to be able to make that determination.
Okay. When the police chief says it's out of control, that's a sign that probably he wants the National Guard in, that he doesn't feel like he has enough resources. But I bet that this guy doesn't want to step on Gavin Newsom, governor of California, and Karen Bass, the mayor of L.A., who are doing awful jobs. And here is Tom Homan saying, protest all you want, but if you touch law enforcement, it's a crime. Cut 8.
For those protesters that cross the line, I've said it many times, you can protest, you get your First Amendment rights. But when you cross that line, you put hands on an ICE officer or you destroy property, or I say that you impede law enforcement or you're knowingly harboring, concealing illegal alien, that's a crime. And the Trump administration is not going to tolerate it. You cross that line, we're going to seek prosecution in the Department of Justice.
Okay, police chief says violence out of control. He also says that you just heard Tom Homan saying we're not going to allow this to happen. Here is Tom Homan saying the violence is escalating, getting worse, more violent. Cut 7.
To the people who are not happy with the fact that ICE is in the community doing what ICE does, I respect ICE for being a fellow law enforcement agency. They have their mission. They have their what they have to do. We don't engage in that activity, but again, we can't preclude them from doing that. They have every right to do that. This violence that I've seen is disgusting. It's escalated now since the beginning of this incident. What we saw the first night was bad. What we've seen subsequent to that is getting increasingly worse and more violent. Tonight we had individuals out there shooting commercial-grade fireworks at our officers. That can kill you.
Okay. Trump says, look, they spit, we hit. This is cut 1. Listen.
I have a little statement. They say, they spit, we hit. And I told them, nobody's going to spit on our police officers. Nobody's going to spit on our military.
Okay, so that is the background. Now, you watch the images yourself. There are cars burning, police cars burning. They are being attacked, police officers. Listen to what you heard if you were on ABC News in L.A. This is Mark Brown. He wants you to know, look, this is just a lot of people who want to have fun watching cars burn. It's not a riot. This is what this dude really said on ABC News. Listen to cut 4.
Large group of people. It could turn very volatile if you move law enforcement in there in the wrong way and turn what is just a bunch of people having fun watching cars burn into a massive confrontation and altercation between officers and demonstrators.
Excuse me. A bunch of people having fun watching cars burn? They're not pulling out skewers and making s'mores in the backyard with the family. That's having fun watching a fire burn. This is attacking people all over the city. Do you think those cops were like, man, they're just having fun watching the cars burn while Molotov cocktails are raining down on them from the overpass, which is what I saw happening last night? Imagine you're watching ABC News. How does that dude have a job? They're just there's a bunch of people having fun watching cars burn. Yeah, that's kind of what a riot is. And also on CNN, Brian Stelter, Humpty Dumpty himself, he wanted you to know most of LA is fine. This is cut 3. But let me just say this too, by the way. When LA was burning, it wasn't the entire city. Do you think people would have been happy if you come on and you say, hey, yeah, there's lots of people losing their homes, they're burning down. Most of the city's not getting hit. I live in Tornado Alley in a large extent in Nashville. Tornadoes come through, they wipe out people's homes. Do you think if I came on the day after a tornado and I was like, hey, just so y'all know, most of the city didn't get hit by the tornado, so we don't really need to consider it to be a major issue? Of course not, but this was Stelter on CNN saying, hey, it's really pretty isolated, the riots, cut 3.
On one level, protests are always about images, about spectacle. You might even say it's about theater, and we are seeing that play out in LA, and I think it's valuable to have that perspective as we see some of these pictures, especially as we zoom out and we recognize that the unrest is isolated, is not overtaking the entire city of LA. LA is home to millions of people, most of whom are having a normal day here on Sunday.
Yeah, the tornado, it just killed some people. Most people are still alive. That hurricane, boy, it didn't hit most of Florida. It just hit part of Florida. I mean, this is crazy, but that is what they are trying to do to minimize. Again, I think the big story here is Trump 1.0 and everybody surrounding him saw what happened in the summer of riots that led to, I believe, thousands of additional murders because suddenly police couldn't do their job, and they are saying, we're not going to let the nation's second largest city, Los Angeles, spiral out of control. By the way, a lot of you in LA listening to us now, we have a huge audience. You can weigh in and let us know what you're seeing and what you think of the response so far. And isn't it always interesting? Isn't it always interesting how the rioters, the looters, and the protesters, they never do this when it's cold? Like, they're never willing to be out in the streets when it's 25 degrees. Now, I know LA's warm all the time, but isn't it amazing that they wait till the weather's perfect? It has to be the summer. It has to be when it's not. You're not going to be out in the streets shivering. And it's amazing. They never really seem to hit the bookstores, and they never really seem to do it early in the morning. It's kind of interesting how it all happens late at night, isn't it? And how it's only like the Best Buy and the Foot Locker that gets hit. Barnes & Noble. I was at Barnes & Noble last night. Barnes & Noble never looted or rioted in the history of mankind. Nobody's like, hey, we can get a really great deal on the Harry Potter books right now. They don't seem to be big readers, the looters and the rioters, despite the fact that they say that they are trying to make a larger statement. So we'll take some of your calls. We'll dive in. Again, Riley Gaines, bottom of the hour. But I want to tell you, buying gold, still a great investment. In fact, over the past years, prices increased 65% in value. You can watch the price of gold continue to rise, particularly as many different banks all over the world are making large-scale purchases to help to balance the dangers of their currencies. You can buy, too. Maybe you just want to balance out your portfolio as you've watched the stock market fluctuate substantially. The value of the dollar can go down, but the value of gold throughout centuries has remained very constant. Diversification easier than ever, and you can get started. Just learn more. Maybe you haven't done a lot of research on this with Birch Gold today by texting my name Clay to 989898. That's my name CLAY to 989898. You get your free, no obligation info kit on gold. Learn how to hold gold and silver, tax sheltered accounts. Birch Gold will help you even convert an existing IRA or 401k into gold IRA for no money out of pocket. A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau. Thousands of thankful customers. Do your own research. Find out if gold makes sense for you and your family by going to 989898 and texting my name Clay. Free, no obligation info will head your way. You can also check it out online at birchgold.com/Clay. Again, 989898, my name Clay. You can also check out birchgold.com. Put some gold in your portfolio. Help to make sure, as people have done for hundreds of years, that you are protected in the event of currency decline. 989898, my name Clay, birchgold.com/Clay.